Welcome to Goshen Prepping. Thanks so much for joining us. Obviously, we talk about stockpiling food and water and such, but one of the things I really try to push and tell people to do is try to go back to the way things used to be, using handheld devices rather than electric devices, or even having propane to cook with, etc. I really think we're heading for a hard time in which electricity is going to be practically scarce. But it's not even just that. When we see things happening in the news, which of course I love to put news articles out to tell, you know what, you better watch out for this because this is what's coming, it helps us be better prepared for what is coming by obviously discussing on the channel. With that, let's jump into our article today. Biden's new crackdown on another appliance. It'll be worse than gas stoves. It's not just stoves, but Biden is now going after air conditioners and other home appliances. And before I continue, which obviously I want to talk about this, I want to ask you, put it in the description below, how many of out there actually have air conditioning? I mean, and if you do, what kind do you have? We don't have central air up in Michigan, but we do have like a couple portable units. And although we could live and survive up here in Michigan without air conditioning, I imagine in some of the southern states that would not be the case. And of course, out west, there's a lot of the evaporative coolers, swamp coolers, which are amazing things. How I wish we could use those here. All right, so here's what we're looking at. It's not just gas stoves. It's looking at all appliances. It's light bulbs. It's electric cars, getting rid of gas engines, which is coming, by the way. And now, of course, air conditioning. And in the article, and I'll link it below instead of actually going through the article specifically, it talks about the gases. Of course, the gases coming out of it, they claim, causes problems with climate change. It's always climate change. That is like their big thing. They're changing everything here in the United States based on this climate change garbage. I say it's garbage. I've said this many times. I'm not saying the climate's not changing. But if you look at historical records, climate's always been changing. You always have ups and downs. And even though we're seeing incredible heat across the country right now, I'm not at all saying it's man-made. I think it's natural phenomena, and we always see ebbs and flows of basically climate changes and heat waves, etc. But right now, isn't this interesting that we see this huge upswing of temperatures across the country, across the world? There's been heat waves, record heat waves in places. When we were in Phoenix, it was 117, 118 degrees every single day. So do you think it's just a coincidence? Put that in the comments below too. Is it a coincidence that, oh, you know what? Super heavy heat waves, and now we're going to limit the amount of air conditioner you can have? How does that make sense? It makes perfect sense if you think about it, because listen, if he wants people to jump on this climate change bandwagon, nothing better than limiting the amount of air conditioning they have in their house. Let's cut out your AC, and then you'll truly be feeling the heat, and therefore you'll jump more onto all this stuff to try to change climate. It sounds like the mafia, doesn't it? You know what? We're going to come in your business. We're going to protect you. Well, protect me from what? From us. That's what's happening with Biden. You need to have all this stuff because of climate change. Well, it's not happening. Well, let me cut off your air conditioning, and then you'll see how much it really is happening. It's simply just government mafia, all this garbage they're putting out. Okay. We've seen problems like this in the past, even when it comes to refrigerant and refrigerators under, like, I think it was Clinton or Obama. You can correct me on that. But they tried to claim that all these refrigerants were cutting holes in the ozone layer. And they admitted, by the way, only a year later that, oh yeah, same thing with the ozone layer. It has ebbs and flows. It decreases, increases naturally over time. And it wasn't the refrigeration, but it was already, the damage was already done. And made it so refrigeration drastically increased in price because they had to use a different type of refrigerant to make it happen. And here in the United States, we just simply saw the prices of our refrigerators going up, or refilling the refrigerators, the prices going up. But what we saw in third world countries, which, refrigeration is not a luxury, it's a necessity, and often a necessity they don't have. Suddenly now refrigerators across the world in third world countries, they couldn't be afforded anymore because all this garbage put out by the United States. Now, granted, nobody says that in the most harshest, driest parts of Africa, they have to buy refrigerators from the United States, but other countries follow suit with the legislation we push through. And that's exactly what happened with this ozone layer crap. Now we're seeing it with, climate change. And again, I'm not going to say we have air conditioners in the hottest parts of Africa, but nevertheless, we are seeing places where air conditioning isn't really a luxury right now, but a necessity, as literally, if you read through the news, people are dying. There was a lady just recently who died because the electric company, she owed the electric company $51. They cut off her power. She had no air conditioning, and she died because of this. So, right in the middle of having these massive heat waves, record highs in temperature, Biden is pulling the plug on people's air conditioners. Of course he is. That's what he wants. It is our government mafia in action. So anyway, put in the comments below what kind of air conditioning you have, or maybe you have an evaporative cooler. But let's talk about this too, because you know what? Again, right back at the very beginning of the video, I mentioned it's best if we can try to keep your house cooled, if you can actually have refrigeration without actually using power or a lot of the stuff the government puts out. In fact, I'll put out this, look at this video right here. I'm sure many of you have seen it, but it's a good refresher. How can you have refrigeration without electricity if the grid goes down? But you know what? The way this government's going, it may not even be grid down. It simply may be them taking away our air conditioners, refrigerators, stoves, and everything from us.